Okay, so the next section is the panel discussion. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we've brought together four players in the EV charging space, so installers and private network operators. So we've got Nigel Daley from NMB, Darren Kinsella from Darkin EV, Chris Kelly, who is EasyGo and CarCharger, and Jerome Flannery from Randridge. So guys, what I'll do first is I'll just ask you each to give a quick introduction, introduce yourself, have a quick talk about, what your business, where it's come from, what you're doing these days. And then we'll drop into some of the questions that we've had through in the last week. So Jerome, I'll go to you first.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. I suppose just to give a brief description on who we are. Some of you may know, some of you may not. Randridge Technology set up the kind of entered the EV industry in 2018-19, and we set up our own CPO, charge point operating service, as a business known as Stop and Top. So in recent months, we've been installing robust chargers for our key clients and managing their operational use with the Stop and Top administration panel. We have partnered with a company called Verta Global, who are a cloud-based platform, and they have over 100,000 charge points on their network. Aside from that, our plan is, I suppose, to get in touch with the likes of the county councils and workplace and commercial and retail areas, where we have access to two of the largest roaming networks, with Hubject and Girev. Our first kind of plan is to roll out public charging for one of the county councils, and then start to discuss other areas with the likes of EasyGo and the ESB. Apart from that, we covered domestic and commercial industrial chargers. We partnered with one of the main manufacturers in Europe called Enso, so we were able to provide those chargers in the Irish network. Partnering with Enso and Verta give us, I suppose, more opportunities to deliver the likes of the Delta ultra-fast chargers, 4-in-1 chargers, 3-in-1. Partnering with Verta gives us another option to bring in the tritium chargers into the Irish market. So it's mainly down to just discussions with county councils and seeing where they're going and what their plans are going to be. Of course, everything is going to go to tender. The likes of myself and EasyGo are probably the two that have gone to this rounds of providing our own infrastructure, having our own app, our own CPO and EMP status. So having that tied into the ESB, again, is offering Ireland, I suppose, all the EV owners in Ireland an opportunity to have an all-Ireland charging map. So it's not like Germany. You're not using 10 or 12 cards to get from one end of Germany to the other side. It's very important to have an ad hoc approach where anyone can use them. So that's one of our main key areas, is to kind of follow up with Chris, EasyGo and ESB, and to produce an all-Ireland charging map, an all-Ireland charging infrastructure where they can download our app, let it be EasyGo app, let it be ESB, and have interoperability through those. So it's just giving people a different option on what to use.
Okay, thank you very much. Darren, I'll go to you next.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, initially we're electrical contractors and electrical engineers, about 25, 26 years involved in the electrical industry. Then we installed our first charger, actually, I was told, in May 2016. And then when I first seen that going on, I got interested in the charging network ourselves. So we initially set up an entity of the group company itself, Darkin EV, back in 2018. So we officially sort of got into the EV market back then. Prior to that, we had done a lot of resource and training throughout Europe and the UK. We researched the products, what availability of the products, backup service, technical support. And also I represent a couple of committees from the Electrical Industry Standards and Contractors Association of Ireland. So I was adamant to make sure the quality of standards and equipment coming into the country and the quality of installs were done properly to regulations. So a lot of our entity, although we do installs for domestic, commercial, a lot of our entity is consultancy work, training, commissioning work. Like we're trained, our guys here train commissioning for ABB, Schneider, FSS, DBT, all different manufacturers. So we have invested very heavy in the industry itself, from test kits to software to training. It was great before COVID-19. We used to enjoy traveling all over Europe, having a night away, getting a bit of training, a bit of education and certification. Going forward, we foresee going forward ourselves, we're in talks with a couple of European manufacturers to introduce different equipment and different ways of charging. So we're always proactive and we're always future-proof. And so our strategy plan, basically, we've a 5-year plan. So we have a hypothetical scenario from inductive charging to all types of strange and weird stuff that's available in America and different parts of Europe that we'll be looking to introduce here. And we also do a lot of work with training lads to install the units and commissioning, and we maintain a lot of private sectors. So although we're not necessarily up to crystal standard at the moment, we will be hoping at some stage to roll out some sort of a public network. Again, we're a private company, so we have to make margins, we have to make profit. So we'll be cautious in how we actually roll it out. Again, any money we borrow or we have to pay back. We've other things in the pipeline where we do a lot of work with other charging people within Ireland ourselves. As I say, the more you get together, 2 brains are better than 1. So we're looking forward to the next 12 months. We have a lot of stuff introduced coming in mainstream in the next 12 months. And it'll be interesting to see how the market's going to diversify and change. As I say, a lot of the stuff is behind the scenes, so what we do ourselves. We're very proactive in that type of way, but we're glad that any input we do have is beneficial to yourself and your members out there. And we look forward to bringing new, different scenarios into the industry going forward. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks, Darren. Nigel Daley, we'll go to you next. So you're on mute, Nigel.
No, I'm okay now. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We're an electrical contracting company started in 1983, so almost 40 years in business. Covered everything and over those years from all aspects, hospitals, shops, all of that. 2010, we were approached by ESB cars to get involved with the charging infrastructure throughout the whole country. And we were installed the very first charger in Ireland in Clorina in Limerick in 2010. So we've been at it for 10, 11 years. Over that time, we've installed probably heading for about 6,000 chargers in domestic applications. And we've gone into commercial and industrial stuff as well. But unlike the other guys, we haven't gone down the road of getting involved with our own network or anything like that at the moment. We are in talks with companies like Darren and Jerome to try and improve that. But what we try to do is just to give the customer a good service and a good quality product. And to date, that has worked. And, I think our reputation speaks for itself. In terms of what we try to do is to engage with the customer and try and help them going forward and ask what will be the best application for them. Products, there's so many out there. It's there's so many to choose from, but the products are all quite good. We use Zappi, EO, Garo. I find they're probably the best and the easiest for the customer to understand. So that's really where we are at the moment, guys.
Great, thanks very much, Nigel. So Chris Kelly, we'll give you an opportunity. Obviously you started on the home charger side, but now EasyGo is a big network already. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Good afternoon. So a little bit about the journey itself. Yeah, we started with the home charge points. What people may not understand or know about us is we actually still install a lot of EV charge points, home charge points. January alone, we've installed, I think, 117 charge points in homes. We also install for business, for fleet. We're finding fleet is becoming quite busy. And businesses that are off at the minute have access to carry out groundworks in car parks and stuff. So they're making the most of that during COVID to put the infrastructure in place for when employees do come back. And then of course we've got EasyGo, and I think everybody here knows about EasyGo or follows EasyGo online at some stage. We try to be proactive in what we promote online and what we're doing and what's coming down the line. We're very excited going forward now. We have a new 75 kilowatt charge point coming online, and we should be getting those in the next, you'll start seeing them in the streets in the next 2 to 3 months. We're particularly going to use these in our rollout of charge points to replace the air phone boxes. We started out, we've identified 180 sites. That's rolled out to, or expanded to over 250 sites now around the country. And around the same time, and it kind of missed the headlines, the bigger headlines, we signed a contract with Musgraves to roll fast chargers out into over 200 stores around the island, north and south. So we are going to be launching EasyGo in UK in the coming weeks, particularly for the UK owners and Northern Ireland, and you're going to see some of our chargers appearing across London and Scotland as well quite soon. So you know, you may have read there we took on major investment in the last short while to enable all of this and to make it happen, and we're looking at the next 3 years rolling out up to 500 fast charge points. And yeah, look, we're progressing quite well. You know, there's definitely challenges there, trying to find the sites, trying to deal with all of the personnel that you have to deal with, and councils and legislation and stuff on these sites to make it happen. But you know, we've made a great start on it, and we're over one of the biggest hurdles of getting started. So yeah, we're looking forward to the next few years. It's going to be very, very busy in this space.
That's great, and it's great to see the progress that you've made. And I guess I'll put the first question to you then, Chris. Obviously, you've seen you putting in a lot of rapid chargers recently, but maybe in 1s and 2s. Are you looking at rolling out hub locations yourselves?
Yeah, we are. And a lot of the discussions that we're having, even though you might see one charge point go in, what you may not see is the infrastructure and groundworks that goes in behind it. It's very positive to see that on most of the sites, one charge point is probably sufficient on a lot for the moment, but a lot of the site owners, they see that there is going to be a need for more than one charge point, so they will actually put in the groundworks to make it very easy to add more charge points as they're needed. And as we grow, because we're a private entity as well, we don't get state funding for doing what we're doing. And it makes it quite difficult to choose the locations and put in multiples on sites, because we need a return on those sites to enable us keep the charge points in the network running. Now, is there a point in putting in 3, 4, 5 charge points on a site? At the moment, you typically see one and maybe another car waiting to use a charge point when it's done. You don't see 4 or 5 cars in one location waiting to charge. But we're monitoring that through our software. As we see things get busier and as we see cars plugging in directly after the next one, well, then we know, okay, there's a market here for fitting another charge point and utilizing that. But we have to have a particular turnover rate through the charge points to make them financially viable. Hopefully the government step up and start making some more funding available. You know, the Climate Action Fund is something it's a massive fund that's still there. It has been there all along, but nothing has been done with it. I know the guys in e-cars did receive 10 million of that. And you know, you can see the fruits of that because there's charge points being fitted around the place at the minute. There's charge points being upgraded and sites being upgraded. but there needs to be a lot more of that funding released, and released across the board. And I'm not saying it released to EasyGo, I'm saying released across the board. You hear the other guys moving in this space as well, which is great to see. There is so much room out there for more charge points. And I can tell you now, EasyGo will not have the time or the energy to fit them all. So the more the merrier at the moment.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you've put in groundworks to allow additional charges at the locations that you've worked with already. I think that's very positive. And I always think that right sizing the network is really important, and making massive investment in rapid charging units and then finding them sitting there not being used, and then maybe finding 2 years later you need to upgrade it, isn't the right thing to do. Let me then jump back to some questions around the home charging side of things. So Nigel, let me come to you. And a question we're quite often asked these days is, if I'm installing a home charger right now, is it worth me in considering a smart charger, or is it still too soon to think about that?
No, I think the smart charger is well. It depends on what your application is going to be, but I think the smart charger for sure is the way to go, because invariably, people want to have some control over it. They want to use an app. They want to be able to check functionality and all of that. And if they're doing solar and PV, well, then the smart charger then can utilize all of that through battery packs and whatever. I think it's all about the monitoring and making sure that it's capable of doing what it says. But equally, the smart charger will invariably give you a built-in load management facility, which is a huge help. It eliminates having to fit additional priority devices and things like that. So the EO and Zappi would be my preference at the moment for those. And of course, the Garrow one is available as well. But they're the ones that we use, and by a country mile, the Zappi one is the most popular at the moment.
Yeah, because I guess one of the things that we kind of see in the UK already is obviously they're down the road with smart metering and so on, and more granular energy tariffs, and that makes having a smart meter much more useful. And I guess that's something we expect to see here in Ireland within the next few years. So if you're installing now, it's certainly worth thinking about doing that, because it will give you the flexibility you need down the line.
Yeah, agreed. And now, as Darren has said there, it's all about just keeping up to speed with things and what's available and what's coming down the track. And we all try to do that. And then ultimately, everybody's goal, is to help the customer and make sure everything is functioning and they're getting value for money. But most importantly, that there's a backup there, and that they understand how to operate the product. That's the main thing.
Great, thanks. And Darren, coming to you, and I know that you're not alone in doing this, but you obviously supply a lot of EO and Zappi chargers, and they're very prominent in the market now. Can you compare and contrast the product offerings there, and maybe any other really good ones that you might recommend to people considering installing a home charger at the moment?
Well, again, it's, as Nigel was saying, we've seen such a difference. For Zappi was completely and utterly had 99% of the market for many, many years, version 1 and the version 2. And even with the quite large increase in price between version 1 and version 2, from our point of view, being qualified and being trained and installers, we understood the differentiation between the different units. The technology was a lot different, the pen protection, the DC leakage, the software updates. It's, it can sometimes, it does come down to financial investment. It is quite a large financial investment, although there is the €600 available from SEAI for the grant. So it takes a sting out of the tail. And then, as you're saying, we're going forward with different technology going forward. It is important to have the technology. When cars are introduced, the new Model 3 came out, there was an issue there with the snooze mode, or the car was hibernating, the charger wouldn't wake up. That just had to be a software update, and some of the chargers themselves had to get a software update. So the pros and cons about it, it's very difficult really. It's, it's one car to another car. If do you want to buy a Nissan Leaf or do you want to buy a Tesla? And chargers can be like that. Like I see behind me there, the new ABB chargers, the AC all box charger coming on stream. Now that's a fantastic charger. It has all the bells and whistles. It'll make you a cup of tea if you wanted to make a cup of tea. But from a financial thing, it is a little bit more expensive when you start adding in the RFID, the back office, the Wi-Fi connection, the 4G connections, the SIM cards to go into it. So again, car chargers, I definitely think car chargers can be like cars. You can just get one that plugs and goes and off you go. But if you're a little bit more techie into it and you want to try and future-proof with the built-in load balancing, also coming down the stream is, you know yourself, in the UK, all the car chargers in the UK over the last couple of years through the OLEV scheme had to qualify for the smart charging. And one of the main focuses and reasons for that was nationally they want to try and grid limit it through working in conjunction with the smart metering. Hypothetically, in the next 15, 20 years, Ireland could have a similar scenario here, that we could have 15 chargers, 15 houses in a cul-de-sac, and they all charge at the same time, and they all go in and click on the kettle on Coronation Street. And before we know it, we have a brownout or a complete and utter blackout. So we have to have smart technology going forward. And I think with most of the chargers sold in the Irish market now, and most people that drive an EV or plug-in hybrids, they've done the market research. They've looked at the cars. They're well aware that the financial commitment they have to make to buy the car and the financial commitment they have to make to buy the charger that's suitable for their car or suitable for their needs. So like, I don't have a strong enough argument to compete between what's best, what's not best. Like, I'm involved in the market. Our office out the back here it's like something you would have seen from MacGyver. We have chargers from every manufacturer throughout the world, taken apart, put back together, fixed and broke. You know, there's not one particular, well, there is one, but I can't even mention now that we'd be afraid to have in the office. You know, that's just how the market has evolved itself going forward. So it is very difficult. I couldn't pinpoint it. Like, we consult and we recommend multiple manufacturers to customers, because we can go to one customer at 9 o'clock in the morning and they require a specific product, specific setup, specific back office. Their usage, either their clients, their customers, or themselves, their own usage, it's different from the next client we see at 10 o'clock. So, you know, I'm just blessed that we have technology out there and all the different manufacturers and the different installers and commission agents here in Ireland that can offer such a great broad spectrum of people. Like, our main mentos here in Darkin EV is that we give choice. We don't give you a charger, we give you a choice. So we'd have a pretty decent broad spectrum of units we use ourselves. Right, I've gone on the question there and I probably forgot even what it was.
No, that's great. That's great. Okay. Just so I'll come back to you, Jerome, next. And obviously, one of the scenarios that comes up quite a lot is someone wants to get an EV and maybe they live in an apartment, or they only can, they can't park right next to the house. They don't have a driveway. So what's your experience in those situations of being able to help those sort of people? And, is it viable to own an EV if you can't if you don't have a driveway?
Well, I think, like, take example for apartment block solutions. I know the SEI are planning on rolling out 2 options for apartment block owners. The hardest thing in an apartment block is the heavy lifting of it. So getting containment and cabling from the main ESP boardroom out to that person's car park. That's the most expensive part in the installation. And the one thing the management company will ask us is, who's going to pay for this? How do we charge the apartment owners for this part? So that's one of the main, I suppose, heavy costs in it in relation to apartments. Don't get me wrong, if your car parking space is beside the ESP room, you're elected. A couple of 10, 15 meters, people will pay for that. But we just see in I suppose, lately is the person that has to install a charge point 40, 50 meters down the car park, and who's going to pay for all this containment to go in? So a lot of the time, the management companies are coming to us and saying, well, is there some sort of deal you can do? Is there a leasing option, a communal charge point option? Yeah, they're all there. But again, it's who's going to upfront the first payment. How are they going to get back that money? So I think the SEI is definitely on a winner with bringing out, they're looking at 60% of the cost covered for the the cable containment and stuff. And if that's the case, if you can get everything pre-wired for a car charging in an apartment block, all the EV owner will have to pay for is the charger and the cable and the connection in the meter cabinet. You know, so every apartment block is the same, is more so the same. You'll have a main meter room with all their ESP supplied or main switch fuses, and you can come from there. It's not called a branch connection if you do it by the safe electric regulations. So I think that the SEI, with to bring out these two options, you will see a massive change in the apartment blocks, even multi-story car parks. Some questions we're getting now is for surface parking. So likes of Wise Property Management, who have 118 apartments and a couple of houses in one estate, they're now looking for us in particular just to come along, do a survey, get an ESP cost of a new mini pillar to be put in, and put in communal charging. And they don't want anything got to do with it, because they're never going to be able to pass them costs onto the people in the housing estate. So they want us to lease the whole package, the ESP, mini pillar, the civil works, the chargers, and then bill the users for the usage. And like Chris was saying, you're kind of waiting on people to use the chargers for you to get back that cost. And if you're looking at putting in 4 or 5 chargers in a communal area, you could be looking at anywhere from 10, 15, 20 grand. And you're going to be looking at a payback of 6 to 10 years, again, depending on how many cars are in there. So from this side point, you'd be hoping that the SEI will bring in a lot more incentives for the likes of communal charging and for apartment blocks.
Yeah, and there's obviously a huge challenge there, and I think regulations now in place for new build apartments, so that they have to prepare, you know, to make sure the cabling's there and so on, so that if you want to fit a charger, and that's great, but there's an awful lot of existing buildings out there that just aren't ready, and there has to be funding in place to enable that. And like you say, the first person that asks at the moment is kind of hit with a brick wall, and they find that they can't get anywhere because the landlord or whoever can't make that investment, or it's too difficult or whatever. So I think there's some challenges there, but I mean, the solutions are on the way, I think is the message.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question. Running a bit long on time, but more questions. So just around, I think a question around fleet, and we'll come to each of you. So I'll go back to you first, Chris. You mentioned a little bit there already about your experiences with fleet. So I don't know if you can mention specific companies or not, but that doesn't really matter. But is that building out locations where, you know, we're seeing, you know, delivery companies and things like this where they are going to use electric vehicles? Is that something that's happening more and more?
Yeah, it is. We're seeing delivery companies and the likes, you know, getting involved. We're seeing some of the bigger companies, the bigger building companies, for instance, and we're seeing a lot of directors in companies getting electric cars, and a lot of senior people in company getting electric cars. Vans not so much at the moment, because the vehicles just aren't out there. Yes, you've seen on Post, you know, take on charge points. They've got 500 EVs at the minute, thereabouts. But there is a shortage of vehicles, and that's Ireland and the UK. I know UK, you can't get a van this year in the UK because British Gas have bought them all up. And it's going to be the same in Ireland. It's going to be a few years before the vans come in. But definitely with cars, there has to be a proper fleet solution. Jerome mentioned it there, the interoperability is a big thing. And we're finding quite similarly with the interoperability. Fleets don't want to get involved with having a load of different cards and a load of different things to manage for their employees. They want it easy for their employees, and you couldn't blame them, because, you know, they're used to handing an employee a DCI card and saying, okay, there you go, you off you go to work and we'll get one bill at the end of the month. And so it's providing solutions like that. We're finding is being very interesting at the moment. But it's smart solutions, solely because there's billing involved, solely because there's a lot of different operators at the moment. And there's going to be more operators in the space. But yeah, fleets are quite happily getting involved. And it's going to grow quite quickly over the next couple of years. Again, as Jerome said, car parks and the likes, you know, having car parks and parking at home. If I drive a company car, I don't want to be relying on just the public network. I still want to charge at home, and there has to be smart charging at home to allow for that. But if I live in an apartment, I need to be able to charge my vehicle, and that's my work vehicle as well. So there's a lot of dots still to join. The SAI still have a lot more work to do in joining the dots and making it run smoothly. But again, to come back to funding, this can't be funded solely by private operators. It absolutely can't be funded because there's too many dots to be joined, and too many people have their own couple of dots that they're working on. There needs to be somebody to take control and spend the money to join them all, or to allow us to join them all.
Yeah, I think we've had some discussions about whether there should be a specific sort of charging infrastructure regulator specifically to deal with that, because obviously it's going to blow up massively in the next decade. And as you say, if things are just allowed grow organically, then we might see what we see maybe in other places in Europe where it's very fragmented. But, yeah. Okay.
It's true, you know.
Thanks very much.
Only going to grow. Oh yeah, sorry, Sam.
No, go on. If you've got a point, go on, finish your point.
No, sorry, no, I was just going to say, they're only going to grow where people can get some payback on it. You know, as Jerome said, they're not going to put charge points in an apartment block where there's no payback. We all want to do it. We'd love to have EasyGo hubs out there with 4 and 5 fast chargers around the country, but it's not going to pay us to do it. And as private companies, if it's not going to pay us to do it, well, then we can't survive as a company by doing it.